I'm no longer a wannabe, I'm a has-been. And so I'll do the best I can, but hopefully it's good enough. Don, I was asking what I should say, and at first I thought he might give me some advice, but in the end he inverted it and he said, well, maybe you should avoid politics and religion, so I'll try that. He suggested I read the crowd for how long I should go on, so hopefully you've got a few buns left or something, and if it's not working, just throw one and I'll take a hint, throw two and I'm out of here. This, if you could just stand with Don behind the blue tapes, please. Yeah. So I called on some volunteers. There's a demonstration of the sort of the life's trail, and typically you use a pocket tape and you stretch it out and you point it, you know, in my case it's 70 inches on the tape, and then you say, you know, if you're a standard Canadian, you're going to pass on at about 84, and so you look at how much tape you've used and how much you got left. Well, you can't see a pocket tape at the back from here. So what I've got these volunteers doing is Janet and Don, that pole over there, that's 0. And Don and Janet, they're standing behind 2 blue ribbons, and they represent the period of time that we were in high school at NVSS. And then down there, the red one that Irene's standing behind, that represents sort of the median age of this crowd, 75. And then Marge, she's behind the blue bag there, and that represents 85 or 84, where if we're standard, we're parish about then. Yeah, the reason I got Marge is that's way back in her rear view mirror, and the far post, that's 100 years. And so what I'd ask you to do is consider that wee little bit of time that we went to NVSS and maybe the impact it had on us. And then as the evening goes on, figure out where you would be on this tape. And you may not have a lot left, so you better make the best of what we got. So I'd like to thank my volunteers for standing up and putting it in the framework. And I'll try it with the rest. So I'll try to not go on too long, but I'll try to put some of my talking in the framework for that time period. And we all came here for our own reasons, and I want to be perfectly clear when I tell this next story that it has nothing to do with the Gulbranson table. You know, when I came, I had it in the back of my mind, there was this one girl in grade 12 that was so hot. It was just incredible. And I kind of wondered how the passage of time had treated her. And when I got here last evening and was looking around, I thought I saw her in the back corner, but I wasn't sure. She was looking a little weathered and wrinkled, which, you know, half a century will do. And so I went over to her, and I wasn't sure, but I looked her in the eye and I said, did you graduate in 71? And she said, she looked at me unknowingly, and she said, yeah, I did. And I said, well, I was there too. And she said, what did you teach? That's why I wanted to be clear the Gulbranson table wasn't involved. I've seen those women in action. I think one of them beat Don Rutland in an arm twist. And over at my Auntie Grace's one time, their pigs were out, and they came in there and they can wrestle hogs more than any man I ever seen. And I think what keeps them so youthful is they got, collectively, those 3 girls got more grandkids than I got years. So. And they're looking sharp. So for the education part that most of us got, some of it was great. Some of the teachers were amazing and we remember them fondly. Some of them, I think, had a reverse psychology. And Jim Valance had a great story about Mrs. Morrissey. She didn't appreciate my academic efforts. And so Mrs. Morrissey wrote in Jim Valance's report card one time, Jim Valance has to pay attention. He can't just drum his life away. And so maybe it was reverse psychology, just being critical, and then we worked extra hard to prove them wrong. And I'm sure for some of our teachers, we've had that country and western thing go through our head, where you'd like to kind of confront them and say, what do you think about me now? You know? And many of them were very inspiring. And there's too many to name a bunch, but for sure what comes to mind is the coaches when I was there. Coach Vandola and Coach Harshbarger had outsized influence. And just naming one other that from the earlier years, the 50s and 60s, Mr. DeMert was a remarkable educator. And I crossed paths with him one time, and we were so fortunate that he and many others dedicated their lives to trying to teach us something. So while we were going to school, it got many of us a good foundation. Jim Valance came back to Vanderhoof a while ago, and he said, you know, you can take Jim out of the Vanderhoof, but you can't take Vanderhoof out of Jim. And he sponsored a great scholarship for music inclined kids at the school, and he left behind a Juno as an award that he'd won. Tonight, the people that'll be on this stage, we have two Juno folks that were Juno nominees. Jeremy in the last one, he went to NVSS, and I believe Justin went to Northside, and they both placed in several categories at the Junos. It's the highest recognition for contemporary music you can get in Canada. So we sponsored, or the school helped, and Vanderhoof helped some pretty good starts. Sport, there's all kinds of stuff hanging in here and at the high school. I won't go on at length, but lots of people got a good start. I'm pretty shaky, so sometimes it's bad enough that my thoughts are erratic and all over the map, let alone my papers. We've got just bits of trivia that may not be aware of. My understanding is from Forrest Curl, who knows most about sports in town, is that we've got an Olympic, we had one before, and we've got another person scheduled to be an Olympian in the coming Olympics. Our forest industry, other bits, I don't know if you call it trivia, but accomplishments. At different times, we had the fastest planer in the world with Mike Manovolich's guidance. We had the largest sawmill, if you use the definition of the amount of wood cut in a day, out at Plateau. We had the largest sawmill construction company in North America. And yeah, that's your one. So all of those accomplishments, there was great leadership, but it also came from a work ethic from all the people that helped out. David Fair and Brian, they accomplished a lot, but without a good workforce and everybody pulling hard for the team, the accomplishments would never have been met. In the retail sector, when I got fired from the co-op, they only had, I think, 3 venues and probably did $1 million a year in business. And Clifford worked at the time I got fired. And they seem to get along fine without me. They've grown, they've got now, they're called had to change their name just for marketing, because Vanderhoof wasn't cutting it, but it's the same co-op and the same core. And I believe they have 30 different outlets and probably do, 100 times the volume. And that was due to a great team, but also leadership from from one of our own who graduated in '69. So that kind of covered, we started off to your left, that brief period of time according to this tape, and then a little bit of time we got at school and the good foundation we got there, and then how we spent our lives. I've covered some of that. So now we're at a time where I find for myself the world's changing big time again. And the example I'll use is when my kids are little, I could do no wrong. I was pretty damn smart. And as they approached their teenage years, I got dumber and dumber and dumber. And then it kind of plateaued when they hit about 20, and then something happened to me and I started to pick up my intelligence again. And for quite a few years I kept getting smarter, but now I'm older, I'm losing it. And they feel a need and an obligation and a responsibility to help me through this difficult time I'm causing. And then just how the world works is confusing to me. One of the latest rages is AI, and I don't completely understand it. Jeremy Blattner has a good understanding, and if I'd have got his help, I could have had a much better talk with the help of AI. But I was confused. When I was a kid on the farm, AI was artificial insemination, and it's just different. So the other things are, in my family, it was important. I was the man of the household. There's lots of Mormons and Mennonites around, and I wanted to hold my own with them, so I was going to make all the big decisions. And it's going on 44 years. One hasn't come up, but a couple I thought were big, and I was told to just stand down and wait till I was needed. On the health front, many of us, it's a changing world. To keep me running, it takes half a dozen doctors, half a dozen therapists, and a few integrative health people. And the conversations we have it's not about the 3 F's, the fishing and fighting and whatever that other one was. It's about, I was sitting at the table with my wife, and a little cartoon came up, and we were sorting our supplements and our various pills. And you put them in them little caddies so you don't get confused, and you make sure you take all the ones you should every day. And the cartoon was of a couple Vikings, and they're looking at each other, and one said to the other, "Sven, tillage isn't what it once was." So there are some common themes through it, and I believe we all came here because we have something in common, and we're going to have vast differences in our views on many things. But I find great comfort with all the people I talk to that the stuff we have in common, the values are really good, and I may not be talking politics and religion, but the rest we seem to have something in common. And I'm just grateful that I spent my time in Vanderhoof. I don't know any better. A lot of you people come from away, or you've gone and you've come back to see us for this time. But Vanderhoof has been very good to me. It's been very good to the people. There's opportunities during our life. If you worked hard, things usually worked out well. And going forward, it's far from my knowledge or ability to offer advice. But for my own world, the importance of kindness and respect, the importance of trying to be helpful and useful, and the importance of our personal bonds with friends and family are they're pretty important. And while I haven't been an exemplar always, it's a marvelous goal to strive for. So I want to say thank you for putting up with listening to me, and above all, A thank you to the crew that organized this. When I retired from my day job, people said, "You got a bucket list?" And I said, "No, I don't have a bucket list. I'll be fine." I said, "But I have another list, and it's the things I'm not going to do. And I'm not going to meetings anymore. I'm not sitting on committees. I'm not kissing the bottom of bureaucrats just to get them to do what they should properly be doing anyway." And the list went on. And I said, those are things I will not do and I'm not going to do anymore. And that list has a name and it rhymes with bucket. So when Susan and Larry and Michelle and Karen and Leslie and Don and John and Doug sort of made the rallying call, he said, "If we're going to do this, we need lots of help," I was noticeably absent. But I am so grateful that they took up the torch and they got this evening together for us. It's a wonderful thing. And if you see them, let them know. I just heard Don, it'll take some time before he heals up from trying to do all of this. But let him know how grateful you are. So the last thing on this thing of life, figure out where you are on it and make sure you make the best of it, including this evening, because it's later than you think. Good night.